Hello everyone and welcome to Vanquish Comics. Today we're going to be talking about the Marvel Comics flagship character Spider-Man. Spider-Man was one of the most important, if not the most important character created in the Silver Age of comic books. In 1962, the creation of Spider-Man began when Marvel editor and writer Stan Lee came up with the idea of a hero who could stick to walls. After polishing the idea up and getting approval from publisher Martin Goodman, Stan Lee teamed up with artist Steve Ditko to debut the character in Amazing Fantasy 15. The character was an instant hit and got his own series in 1963 titled The Amazing Spider-Man, which is still being published to this very day with only a few year or two long hiatuses along the way. The Amazing Spider-Man has also had a plethora of spin-off series over the years, such as Marvel Team Up, Peter Parker the Spectacular Spider-Man, Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man, and multiple alternate universe versions of the characters such as Spider-Man Noir, Spider-Man 2099, and Ultimate Spider-Man. With all of this success, it's no wonder that Spider-Man is Marvel's most popular character and a huge pop culture icon. Because of multiple cartoon series, 5 movies, and general word of mouth, we all know the gist of Spider-Man's backstory, but even with all this Spidey-related entertainment and mainstream media, most people don't even know a whole lot about the Webhead's original story from the ground up, starting with his very first appearance of the character in 1962. We all know that Peter Parker was just a normal kid in high school with a big brain and a non-existent social life. We all know that he was raised by his Aunt May and Uncle Ben, and of course we know he gained his trademark spider sense, the ability to stick to walls, and increased agility and strength from the bite of a radioactive spider. However, after the point where Peter gets bitten by the spider, knowledge of the character's life gets a little bit hazy due to the different retellings of his story. Unlike the 2002 Sam Raimi movie, where Peter actually had the power to shoot webs organically out of his wrists, Peter uses his scientific brilliance to create his own web shooter devices. After exploiting his new abilities on live television to make some cash, Peter bitterly ignores the opportunity to stop a robber who later murders Uncle Ben shortly after his robbery. When Peter realizes that his failure to take action indirectly led to the death of his uncle, he vowed to never again stand by while crimes are committed and other people are hurt. And of course, as we all know, this is when he decides to devote his life to honoring Uncle Ben's belief that with great power comes great responsibility. Along the way, he picks up a huge amount of arch rivals such as Sandman, Rhino, Electro, the Kingpin, Shocker, the Scorpion, Chameleon, Mysterio, Dr. Octopus, Kraven the Hunter, Lizard, Venom, and probably his most important nemesis, the Green Goblin. Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery is a huge part of his commercial success. It is generally agreed on that the massive amount and consistent quality of Spider-Man's villains are only matched by those of Batman or Superman. After getting used to his new life as a superhero, Peter becomes more confident in himself and actually makes a few friends such as Harry Osborn, Gwen Stacy, Mary Jane, and even his high school bully Flash Thompson. Contrary to what the movies may have you believe, the post-Spider-Bite Peter Parker was actually a pretty charming, well-spoken person who grew out of the stereotypical Poindexter persona. The original Spider-Man movies portray Peter as a socially inept loser who rides around on a dorky motorized scooter, constantly fails to get Mary Jane Watson's attention, and, well, yeah. But most of Peter's social problems in the comics come from the fact that he is juggling between keeping his grades up, working as a part-time photographer for the Daily Bugle to pay the bills, and taking care of his Aunt May, who is often in bad health. Because of this constant stress, he struggles to find the time with his friends that he needs to, and often comes off as bitter to them. But regardless of these social problems, Peter is almost always romantically involved with someone. His first romantic interest was, wait for it, not Gwen Stacy, not Mary Jane, but Betty Brant. That's right, remember this girl from the Daily Bugle in the old Spider-Man movies? That was his first girlfriend. After the relationship ended, Peter was pretty much constantly romantically involved with someone, mostly Gwen Stacy, who, spoilers, was later killed by the Green Goblin, and Mary Jane, who eventually became his wife. Peter's romantic life was just one of the many characteristics that innovated the more down-to-earth and relatable approach to superheroes that became so popular during the Silver Age of comics. Another innovative characteristic of Spider-Man is that he was the first notable adolescent superhero who wasn't just somebody else's sidekick, starting his vigilantism at only 15 years old. He was very different from most other superheroes because he was more flawed both as a hero and a person, and dealt with constant self-doubt. While most superheroes up to the point of Spidey's creation were typically written to be godlike, flawless individuals who taught the reader to be a model citizen through good example, readers could learn lessons from Spider-Man by relating to him and by seeing how he learns from his experience to improve as a person. Spider-Man isn't necessarily trying to save the world or punish bad guys, he just strongly believes that if you're faced with the opportunity to do something good, and you have the ability to do it, the pros of doing it will always outweigh the cons. Whether it's saying hey to the kid at school who gets picked on for no reason, or actually protecting someone from danger, the overall message of Spider-Man is that everyone has something positive that they can contribute to any given situation. It's all about the little things. Sure, Spider-Man deals with much bigger problems than the typical person, but to him it's all just his contribution since he has the power to tackle problems that most others can't. Long story short, with great power comes great responsibility. If you're looking to get into more Spider-Man related entertainment, you're in luck, because there are tons of places to get started. Obviously, comic books can be a bit overwhelming, especially for a character with as much history as Spider-Man. However, we do recommend that you give some of them a try. Some good starting places are Spider-Man Blue, Kraven's Last Hunt, and the Amazing Spider-Man Civil War tie-in issues. Or, if you have the patience, you can start from the very beginning with Amazing Fantasy 15 and just skim through an issue a day until you're caught up with the current comics. But if you're new to Marvel Comics altogether, my biggest recommendation is Ultimate Spider-Man, which has a new take on Spider-Man's story with a more modern writing and art style. This comic is very accessible for new comic readers and avoids all the hassle that over 50 years of history in a character's story can cause. However, this series does take place in an alternate universe from Marvel's primary comic universe, Earth 616, so don't expect to learn a whole lot about some of the more iconic moments in Spider-Man's history from this story. If you have no interest in comics, there's still plenty of other options. Obviously, there are movies. The first two Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies are considered modern classics and do a great job of capturing that old school Spider-Man feel. The third installment in the series is also worth a watch too, but it is generally agreed on that it's a lackluster movie and tells the symbiote story extremely inaccurately. There are also the newer Amazing Spider-Man movies, which were very divisive among fans, but go for a much more updated style and have very memorable action sequences. We personally recommend them, but a lot of people found that these movies lack the charm and spirit of the Sam Raimi movies. There are also tons of TV shows you can watch. If you're looking for the most accurate adaptation of the comics, the 90s animated series is about as close as it gets, although the show is intended for younger kids and can get a little exhausting to watch for extended periods of time. There's also the Spectacular Spider-Man, which is widely regarded as the best Spider-Man cartoon to date. Other notable Spider-Man shows are MTV's short-lived Spider-Man the New Animated Series, which is aimed for a more mature audience. There's also Disney's Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon, which, while fairly inaccurate and irrelevant to the source material, is a good show to be introduced to many of Marvel's more obscure characters such as Nova and Iron Fist. And one of my personal favorites, Spider-Man Unlimited, which tries something totally new with the character by putting him in a cool cyberpunk sci-fi setting. So that concludes our brief overview of everyone's favorite web-slinger. Be sure to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for many more videos like this one for tons of other awesome characters.